Further information seems to have not so much been leaked but found regarding the PlayStation 5's technical capabilities. Same too for the Xbox Series X, which in future I think should just simply be called the Xbox SX. Digital Foundry, Eurogamer, found in some sort of hidden data that was kind of not so much leaked but sort of discovered, and they're very good at that kind of thing. And they discovered and found this information that relates to the PS5 having a graphics capability of 9.2 teraflops. Now, when you consider the PlayStation 4 only has 1.84 teraflops, this is a pretty beefy machine still. It's going to have GDDR6 RAM, which is, if you're looking sort of pretty much at PC specs, which are kind of inaccurate in a way, because this will be custom silicone, the same that that Microsoft are going to be doing for the SX, and Sony are obviously going to be doing for the PlayStation 5. So you can't really compare like for like, and there's a whole bunch of other factors to consider. But if you were to just take it literally, it's similar to an AMD RX 5700, but again, take that with a huge pinch of salt. It'll have the same amount of compute units as the Pro, actually 36, but instead of the Pro, which is running at 911 megahertz, the PlayStation 5 will run at 2000 megahertz. And it will also have it seems to appear that the graphics, the GPU, will be able to hardware mimic the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation Pro. So instead of being a software emulation of those older consoles, it's actually going to be hardware emulation, which will obviously be much more stable and better and easier for developers to, well, not so much develop for, because they wouldn't be developing for it, but certainly there's going to be less glitch. So with that out and about, and again, all of this should be taken with a pinch of salt, because we have no context in terms of where this is and where this is placed and how this refers and works with custom architecture and custom silicone. There's a whole bunch of those things that you have to consider. You can't just take those as read, but of course the internet is, and they're going crazy with it, particularly considering that the Xbox SX, the Series X, is very likely, or rumored to have 12 teraflops in their GPU, 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 RAM, and 1 terabyte SSD. Now that is an awful lot more powerful, but again, context is key. Custom architecture and understanding what they're going to be doing with that is key too. You only have to look at what they've managed to squeeze out of, Sony have managed to squeeze out of the PlayStation Pro with Death Stranding. That would have just been completely unheard of. People would be looking at those graphics and saying, no, that's a high-end PC, and you could have got away with that. So again, context, custom silicone, you have to take those into consideration, and look at what Sony has done for PlayStation and PlayStation Pro before, with what would appear to be relatively sort of weaker hardware and capabilities, and managed to do incredible things with it. So you have to take that into consideration. But of course, the internet is going crazy about these two things. Ex-boners are going mental, saying, oh, the PS5 rather, is going to be so weak, it's a weak machine. The Xbox Series X is the beast, is the monster. And I'm also reading in some of the forums that people are going to be, some people seem to be disappointed that the Xbox Series X, the SX, it will likely land around a $499, but could be $599. And the disappointment not so much is that it's going to be more expensive. The disappointment is I want it to be $599 because I want a premium unit. Yeah, you can still have a premium unit if Microsoft are going to take a bigger hit on their profits. So it certainly seems that Microsoft are going for a much bigger badass system. They've learned from their lessons before, and they've learned a lot of lessons with the Xbox One X, and seen how that has been taken board by a lot of gamers and how popular that has been. And I think they just don't want to be seen to be producing a weaker machine, so they've gone all out. My money's still on 499 with that. 599 is crazy. I don't see, it's just breaking past that psychological barrier, and you would imagine that they would have learnt the lesson that Sony learnt with the PlayStation 3 when that was released, I think at 599. I remember buying it in Singapore at the time, and it was really expensive. So yeah, it certainly points much more to 499 for the Xbox SX, and for the PlayStation 5 with that lower end. They're obviously looking more towards performance and price, whereas Microsoft are simply looking at performance, with price coming second. So maybe the PlayStation 5 could be 399, which is an incredible magical sweet spot for a console. That's much more palatable for the consumer. And given that most consumers, the average consumer, not Marcus Brownlee, the average consumer would just not bother with all the technical aspects of what these units can do. They will just see one is cheaper than the other, and looks predominantly the same in terms of what it dishes out and the games it does. And of course Sony has the advantage that, you know, they do tend to do better games. You know, their first party consoles exclusives are just better, in my opinion. Although having said that, the device and console I've used most of the time, the last sort of year and a half, has been the Xbox One X, as well as my PC, but for most other things. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think that, you know, that 399 for the PlayStation 5, with what appears to be its technical capabilities, seems to be about fair and right? And are you disappointed by the fact that the PS5 seems to be now a lower end or less capable, and again context is key with all that, machine than say the Xbox Series X? And you know, does that change what your feelings are about either machine? You know, do you think that with 599 possibly happening with the Xbox Series X, would that actually put you off? I know we've done a poll, and it seems to be the general consensus seems to be around about 499 for next gen consoles. So we will see, but I'm sure maybe Sony are likely to do an announcement at CES 2020, which they've never really done for consoles before. But with this whole year, having the whole year for promotions and marketing, things are going to be really ramping up, and I think Sony are going to be starting that very early indeed. So we could know more, much more, next week. Keep posted. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell, give me a thumbs up, always very welcome, and I'll see you next time. Take care.